Why do some people still believe that racism is just a thing of the past? In a country where over 25% of Black Americans report experiencing racial discrimination daily, how can we ignore the stories hiding in plain sight? This isn't about numbers, it's about lives. Take the case of Dr. Maya Hayes. For example, she was an accomplished scientist, a wife, a daughter, and on one fateful evening, she became another statistic. But this story doesn't end with her name added to a list. It begins there. On a quiet Tuesday night in suburban Detroit, Officer Gregson pulled Maya over for what he claimed was a broken taillight. The dashcam footage later showed no such damage. What happened next shocked those who saw it. Calm words turned into shouting, then shoving, until finally, Maya, a woman who had never been arrested in her life, was dragged from her car and thrown into the back of a police cruiser. All while bystanders recorded everything, their voices trembling as they shouted for justice. If you are enjoying this story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Literally anywhere in the world. Also, hit that subscribe button to stay updated, and drop your thoughts below. Your voice matters. Thanks for being here. Now here's a kicker. Incidents like these aren't rare. Studies show that Black drivers are 20% more likely to be pulled over than white drivers in similar neighborhoods. And once stopped, they are 3 times more likely to face physical force. But statistics don't tell the whole story. They don't capture the fear in Maya's voice when she called her husband from jail that night, or the way Officer Gregson justified his actions by saying she didn't respect my authority. What do you think? Was this just a bad apple, or does it point to something deeper? Comment below with your thoughts, because before we dive further into Maya's journey, we want to hear from you. How far would *you* go if someone tried to break you down like this? Would you stay silent or fight back? Let us know. The video of Maya's arrest went viral almost instantly. Within hours, it was everywhere, shared by strangers, debated on talk shows, and dissected in online forums. People couldn't believe what they were seeing. A respected scientist, calm and composed, being manhandled by a cop who seemed to escalate the situation without cause. But here's the thing about viral moments. They fade fast. For most people, the outrage lasted a week at most. For Maya, though, it became her reality. After the dust settled, the department launched an internal investigation. Spoiler alert, nothing much came of it. Officer Gregson received a 2-week suspension, a slap on the wrist compared to the trauma Maya endured. Meanwhile, she found herself stuck in a limbo of legal battles and media scrutiny. Her once private life was suddenly public property, with every detail picked apart. Some questioned why she hadn't fought back harder. Others wondered if maybe, just maybe, she'd done something to provoke him. Sound familiar? It's the same narrative we've seen time and again when Black victims speak out. But Maya wasn't one to stay down. While the system dragged its feet, she took action. Quietly, methodically, she began rebuilding. She threw herself into her wake, earning accolades for her groundbreaking research. And then, something unexpected happened. A recruiter from the CIA reached out. They'd been following her career and her case, and believed her unique perspective could bring value to their missions. Maya hesitated at first. Why join an organization that often mirrored the same power structures she fought against? But deep down, she knew this might be her chance to make a real difference. 5 years passed. During that time, Maya transformed into someone unrecognizable to her former self. She learned languages, mastered combat techniques, and honed her ability to think several steps ahead. Yet through all the training and missions, she never forgot Officer Gregson, or the lesson he taught her, that systems don't always protect the innocent. Now, let's pause for a moment. What would you do in Maya's position? Would you seek revenge, or try to move forward? Or is there another path entirely? Share your thoughts in the comments below. 5 years after the incident, Maya Hayes was no longer the woman who'd been dragged out of her car under false pretenses. She was now Agent Hayes, a highly skilled operative working in the shadows to dismantle threats most people didn't even know existed. Meanwhile, Officer Gregson had left the police force, not because of any consequences for his actions, but because he saw better opportunities elsewhere. He took a job as head of security at a private firm specializing in high-profile events and corporate protection. It seemed like both their lives were moving on, except fate has a way of twisting paths back together. One day, Maya received an assignment. infiltrate a secretive organization suspected of smuggling illegal weapons across borders. The intel pointed to a major operation happening at a gala hosted by one of the firm's clients. As she reviewed the guest list and security protocols, a name jumped off the page: Gregson. Of all the places and people in the world, this mission brought her face to face with a man whose actions had changed her life forever. Maya's training taught her to compartmentalize emotions, but seeing Gregson again stirred something deep inside her. This wasn't about personal revenge. It couldn't be. Her mission came first. Still, she allowed herself a moment of reflection. How different might her life have been if that night had unfolded differently? If justice had truly been served instead of swept aside? On the night of the gala, Maya slipped into the event disguised as a caterer. She moved through the crowd unnoticed, gathering information while keeping an eye on Gregson. At one point, their paths crossed briefly. Neither acknowledged the other, but Maya felt the weight of the moment. For Gregson, it was just another night on the job. For Maya, it was a reminder of why she did what she did, to ensure no one else ever experienced the kind of injustice she had. As the evening progressed, Maya uncovered evidence linking the firm to the weapons ring. With time running out, she executed her plan flawlessly, planting devices that would trace the smugglers' communication straight to law enforcement. In the chaos that followed, Gregson found himself caught up in the investigation, not because he was directly involved, but because his association with the firm made him a person of interest. When Gregson was taken into custody, Maya watched from afar, her heart pounding not with triumph but with complexity. Justice hadn't come for her personally, but it had arrived for the larger system that enabled people like Gregson to abuse power without consequence. Now here's the question. What do you think Gregson realized in that moment? Did he finally understand the ripple effect of his choices, or did he double down on his beliefs? And how does Maya process this encounter? Is closure enough, or does she still carry the weight of what happened? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. In the final act, we'll see how Maya's journey shapes not only her future, but also the system she works within. Does she find peace, or does the fight continue? Stick around to find out. Gregson's arrest sent ripples through the private firm, unraveling layers of corruption that extended far beyond weapons smuggling. While he wasn't directly implicated in the illegal activities, his name became synonymous with failure, a symbol of how even those who thought they were untouchable could fall. For Maya, however, this wasn't about Gregson. It was about dismantling the structures that allowed people like him to thrive. In the weeks following the operation, Maya returned to her routine, diving headfirst into new missions and reports. But late one night, as she reviewed case files in a dimly lit apartment, a thought struck her. Had anything really changed? Gregson might be out of the picture, but countless others just like him still walk free, protected by systems designed to shield them from accountability. It was a sobering reminder that justice wasn't a single act, it was a continuous fight. Months later, Maya received an unexpected invitation, a chance to speak at a conference on systemic reform within law enforcement. At first, she hesitated. Public speaking wasn't her forte, and she preferred staying behind the scenes. But something about the opportunity resonated with her. Maybe it was a chance to use her voice, not as a victim, but as someone who'd seen both sides of the system. On the day of the conference, Maya stood before a room filled with policymakers, activists, and former officers. She spoke candidly about her experience, not shying away from the harsh truths. Racism isn't just about individual acts, she said. It's about the systems we build and the people we empower to enforce them. Her words struck a chord, sparking conversations that lingered long after the event ended. Meanwhile, Gregson sat in a holding cell, awaiting trial for perjury charges stemming from his involvement with the firm. In solitude, he began to reflect on his career, his choices, and the woman whose life he'd altered so carelessly. For the first time, he questioned whether his actions were justified, or if he'd been part of the problem all along. Back in the field, Maya continued her work, knowing full well that change wouldn't happen overnight. Yet, she carried a renewed sense of purpose. Justice wasn't always visible or immediate, but every small victory mattered. And sometimes, the most powerful victories weren't measured in arrests or convictions. They were measured in the seeds planted, the conversation started, and the lives touched. So, what do you think? Was Maya's decision to speak publicly the right move? Do you believe Gregson will truly learn from his mistakes, or is he destined to repeat them? Share your thoughts in the comments below, because in the end, stories like these aren't just about individuals. They're about the collective effort needed to create a fairer world. And maybe, just maybe, that's where hope lies.